Where do I put this? Stay tuned and I'll give you some tips and pointers on how I do it in my collection. Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for joining me in the music room today. My name is Doug. If you are new to the channel, thought I would come on here with a bit of a quick video about collection organization, kind of a postscript to a previous video I did where I did a bit of a tour around the music room. Got quite a few comments about how organized it is. I didn't show you some of the cluttered spots. Still working on a couple of areas. But it is important to me to have an organized collection, to know where things are, be able to find them in a pinch when I want to. And over the years, I did develop a bit of a methodology, a system to keep track of things, know where to find things, and I've stuck to that, and for the most part, it's worked out pretty well. On very rare occasions, it's difficult to locate something, and that can often be due to some of the unique permutations of reggae music. Those of you that know the genre will have an idea what I'm talking about. I'm going to touch on a couple of those things in this video. Also gives me a chance to try out the camera on my new phone. Just got it yesterday. We'll see if the video comes out looking a bit better. A lot of things going on since my last video. We lost Cat Coeur from Third World, and of course, more recently, the master drummer himself, Sly Dunbar, kind of mulling over doing some more in-depth looks at them down the line, but that'll take a bit of time to put together. So we're going to start off with one of those conundrums that reggae music can present you with, beginning with a record I showed kind of briefly at the end of that room tour video. Just arrived not too long ago, titled only Original King Key Dub and credited only to King Tubby's studio. So where do I file this? This is Ranking Joe Productions. He is the producer of this music. The band, unclear on here. Only a studio credit, King Tubby's studio. Is that King Tubby himself? Kind of doubtful on that score. You can make your own educated guesses who's mixing this material based on what you hear. But one of those apocryphal dub albums that can be a bit tricky to file. Now, I should note my filing system is basically based on, I think, an Excel file that a friend of mine from the old Blood and Fire message board days, late 1990s, early 2000s, sent me many years ago that he used for his own record collection. It had tabs for albums, 7-inch singles, and 12-inch singles. So I started using that template, and when I started building up my collection, I thought I would follow that, have the records placed on the shelves where they would correspond to the appropriate spot where the record was listed in the database. So we're going to head over to the shelves now, and I'm going to give you a bit of an idea how things are filed. So the basis of my record collection is an alphabetical filing system, going by artist surname when possible, and I have them separated into a few very intentionally very broad and general genre sections. For example, the bottom two rows there are rock. There's also a section for jazz, for folk, for world music, etc. But for the purposes of this video, I'm just going to be looking at the reggae and some of the unique curveballs it can throw your filing system. Now, I've counted artist names that include or start with a number ahead of the letters. I think the only one I have is this one, 20th Century Rebels, Revolution, kind of a obscure Canadian one from the early 1980s, going into the Abyssinians, And then beginning with the artist names. Anyone knows how to keep the sleeves from bubbling back in, let me know. That's kind of a full-time job right there. Also, any artist that has a title as part of their name, I usually just go by the first letter of the beginning of the title. So Admiral Tibet is under A for that. Also, same thing, Alpha Blondie under A. And then we go into the artist's surnames. Horace Andy, for example, under A. Good Vibes. And the Essential In the Light from Blood and Fire. Going into Aswad. Big Youth, again, Big, just going by the first letter of his stage name, B for the Big Youth, also known as Ja Youth. Then into the Black section, Black Slate, Black Uhuru, and who else we got? Black Roots probably in there. The artist name, again, Brown, Barry Brown, under B. More vibes of Barry Brown, along with Stammer Ranks, Dennis Brown, the immortal Dennis Brown under B. Going into the rhythm master, Glenn Brown, still in the B's. Brown Sugar, Burning Spear, still in the B's. And then we move on to Chalice, to Jimmy Cliff. And who else we got here? Johnny Clark, going into the C's. Culture, Dillinger, Mikey Dread. I went by D for Dread for him. Maybe I could have gone by Mikey. Michael was his real name, so I treated Dread as his surname in that instance. Again, a few variables. Nothing's ever 100% perfect, but as long as you can find it. Hammond for Barras. Hines for Justin Hines and the Dominoes. On to Keith Hudson. Iroy, Gregory Isaacs. Mr. Isaacs. The Itals. Now, again, the J's, Josh Shaka, I count as J, filing under J. Of course, there'll be a few J's. John Mason. Now, a useful filter for reggae is also going by the producer. That may be, sometimes can be a bit confusing for people that are used to rock, where the producer is maybe not as integral, certainly an important role in shaping the album. But in reggae, it's an even more important filter to apply, as the producer is often responsible for inaugurating sessions, for making recordings happen, and their catalogs of music on their labels, kind of a distinct catalog, if you will. So I have a section for Joe Gibbs produced music, not an artist, but a producer. The African Dub Series, Dub Serial, more producers, Bunny Lee, filed under L. Again, not an artist, just a producer. These could probably have been filed under various artists, but they're all Bunny Lee productions, so I have placed them in the L section. Bob Marley and the Wailers, various band names, but the key factor is the king, Bob Marley, so filed under M for Marley. On and on we go. Sugar Minot, Jackie Matu, Morgan Heritage, Hugh Mundell, Junior Mervyn, Nicodemus, Johnny Osborne, into the O's, and Augustus Pablo, east of the River Nile there. Lee Scratch Perry. Perry, producer as well as an artist, a bit unique in Jamaican music. So this is the Lee Perry section, starting from here, going up to here. Again, many of them kind of various artists' compilations, but all produced by the great Scratch, Lee Scratch Perry. Going down to Prince Farai, again, section for the Princes, lots of Princes in these record shelves. Prince Jammy, dub mixer, producer. Prince Lincoln, Ranking Joe, Ras Michael and the Sons of Negus, the Revolutionaries, house band at Channel 1, just a convenient place to put all those Channel 1 dub albums. Now, dub albums, when possible, I've filed them under the mixing engineer's name. So here is the Scientist section. Scientist meets the Roots Radix. Prince Jammy, of course, also a dub mixer of some note. So these albums are all filed under Prince Jammy. And the big one, of course, the Dub Foundation, King Tubby. Now, of course, there's a lot of controversy over King Tubby albums credited to him. It's not all him at the mixing controls. So I've taken King Tubby as kind of a general appellation, can apply to him or some of the apprentice engineers working under him, King Tubby and Prince Jammy in fine style. Dub gone too crazy. Usually I file, where there's more than one artist, I'll usually file them in that main artist section, usually at the back. Freedom Sounds Redemption Dub. The King Tubby section will also be where I ultimately file original King Key Dub under King Tubby for King Tubby's studio, not the work of one man, maybe apocryphal in some ways to place it there, but kind of the only place to put it. Also, I should mention duos. I've usually filed where I have a section by one of the artists as a solo act. Sometimes I will file them with the main albums by that artist. For example, if I can find it, Bob Andy, where are you? Where are you hiding, Bob Andy? Here we go. We got Bob Andy's albums here, and the duo of Bob Andy and Marcia Griffiths, just kind of at the tail end of Bob Andy. And another one, where are we at here? Dave and Ansel Collins. I have filed them under D for Dave. Producer, again, artist, you might say, Sly and Robbie. Rest in peace to the great Sly Dunbar. The Sly and Robbie section. Leroy Smart, going by S for Smart. The Twinkle Brothers, U-Roy, and then we start on the various artists. There's going to be an inevitable amount of various artists comps in here. Some of them maybe I could have placed under producer. For example, Africa Iron Gate Showcase. Those are Prince Hammer Productions. I could have put that under there. African Blood, that's Studio One material. I should probably have set up a separate Studio One section for Studio One music. As it is, a lot of it is right here. Studio first, and then into all the various soul jazz compilations. Studio One DJs, Studio One Rockers, Studio One Rude Boy, and so on. Got quite a few of those. Maybe it would make more sense to put them in a Studio One section, but they're mostly various artists' compilations, so that's where I've placed them. And also, where would you put something like this? Horace Andy's Skylarking, his debut album, a significant album to have in the Horace Andy section, obviously, but it's a Studio One production. So kind of a dilemma there, maybe a first world problem, you might say. Then we go on to, past the various artists, we go on to Bunny Wailer, filed under W for Wailer, Blackheart Man there, the Wailing Souls, into the Yabby U section, Conquering Lion by Yabby U, alias Vivian Jackson, ending up with Yellow Man, and the very last album in the collection, Earl Zero with Visions of Love, filed under Z for Zero. Now, my reggae 7-inch singles are organized kind of roughly alphabetically the same way, except way back when I separated them into one section for vintage reggae music from the 70s and 80s and so on, whether it be an original press or a later repress. If it came out originally in the 70s or 80s, it goes in this section. And then I have another section for what at that time was more modern stuff from the 90s and early 2000s. And these, again, basically alphabetical. Asher and Trimble, Humble It Yourself, Augustus Pablo, Barrington Spence, Clapper's Record Shop, Mobay, Ace 90 Skank by Big Youth, again going into the B's, Big Youth, and going into Black Uhuru. This is a much later repress from Only Roots, but again, originally came out in the early 1970s. Now, many years ago, I was buying a lot of new reggae as it was coming out on the 7-inch single format. There was a weekly release schedule of new tunes coming out on 45 before the flow of vinyl ended, coming from Jamaica. And these ones I have in their own section, reggae 1990s to 2000s, organized alphabetically by rhythm first. I would sometimes buy a couple of different tunes on the same rhythm as they came out. The Kabbalah label, Babylon, a Tri Rhythm. So that's kind of my first order of business to organizing reggae from that era on 7-inch single. Bus Up Barriers Rhythm from HMG, produced by Morgan Heritage. The Cassandra Rhythm from Fifth Element, the Fifth Element label. Going sometimes into just a generic label name, the Don Corleone label, for example. Just doing some good stuff for a while there. Don Corleone, and then the Down Sound label. Don Corleone, famed for the drop leaf rhythm. Dub in a Rome, Equal Rights, the Father Jungle Rock rhythm. Feel the Power rhythm from Exterminator. There's an Exterminator section a little later on, as well as a Digital B section. And then sometimes there is also an artist section where it doesn't fit into a rhythm category, and also just a generic section for a few 7-inch singles that don't fit anywhere else. Again, these were more modern reggae at one time, but they're kind of oldies now. Now, 12-inch singles I have organized a little differently. 10-inch singles, which I have a smaller number of, follow kind of the same format. I have organized these by label. And the reason for that is that was one of the tabs on the Excel template that a friend sent me long ago. He had his 12-inch singles listed according to label, so I just followed that and filed mine that way. A1, this is the A section here, the archive reissue label, Willie Williams there. Art and craft. Going on to Bebo's. Lots of Reggae 12-inch singles, Burning Rockers, and into Channel 1 for the C's. Who's that? John Holt from the Quaker Sound System collection. And as I said, 10-inch singles, also organized according to label, but I just kind of have less than 1 cube of those. So that is how I organize my collection. I'd be interested to know how any of you watching organize yours. Let me know in the comments down below, and be sure and stay tuned for the next video. Cheers, and thanks for watching.